Hello everyone, welcome to another speedrun game against Secret Mirror. He goes with d4. We'll go with d5 to get our Queen's Gambit declined. He does not play the Queen's Gambit. He goes for London setup. So we're just going to develop our knight towards the center against this 1750 rated player who closes his pawn chain and opens up his bishop. Fair enough. I'm going to play c5 as the London bishop leaves the b pawn undefended. Okay, he does not go for the London. He goes for a Jobava London setup with the knight and bishop out, and then try to coordinate on this square with some tactics. So just like in our Jobava London games, you've seen us play a6, just removing that idea, taking that square away from his pieces, and now we can just develop normally towards the center without fear of anything coming there. He moves the same piece twice instead of developing a new piece, and it doesn't come with a threat. This is just a trade. So I don't mind it. I'm just going to get my bishop outside of my pawn chain before I close it and develop a new piece. He plays a3, a little bit weird. I'm not sure what that's about. I'm just going to continue with my plan, close my pawn chain, open up my bishop, prepare castling, and see what he does. I've done all normal stuff, except a6 is the only let's say normal move, but it makes a lot of sense and it's easily seen why I made it. So he puts the bishop here, which challenges our bishop. We could easily trade, it's not a problem. As long as our bishop is not stuck inside our pawn chain, whether it's outside or traded, that's fine. So now it's off the board. We don't have to worry about it being harassed by his pawns or his knight. So let's continue. It's always a good idea to take a central pawn with a flank pawn, especially when he can't recapture with the c pawn. So he takes back with the e pawn, and now this pawn is defended by pieces, the queen, but not a pawn. So it's a little vulnerable. Perhaps you can attack it with a developing move. Let's say queen b6. It hits this pawn and this pawn. If he goes knight a4, hitting your queen, you could take the central pawn. So when you go here, he might feel obliged to take your knight to reduce the pressure on the pawn. And if he does take your knight, can you go and take this pawn? Let's say he hits your queen. Well, then you're kind of in a bad spot. So he doesn't go for it. He leaves both pawns hanging, which I feel like cannot be the right decision. I feel like taking my knight was an easy solution for him. But he doesn't do it. So is this pawn not hanging? I get a pawn. If he gets a knight, I get a queen. He gets a queen, I get a knight. I'm up a pawn. If I get a pawn, he gets a queen, I get a queen. This pawn's loose and hanging. I don't see how this works for him. So I'm going to go and try to pick up the free material in the center. And if I manage to just take that clean pawn with no counterplay from white and no compensation, then I just have my win condition. I'm up my central pawn, and I can just castle, trade everything, and go into a nice endgame and win that way. Because now I'm attacking the queen, double attacking the knight, and attacking the bishop. So it's kind of hard to avoid. I mean, I guess you could try to avoid it somehow. Unclear. But I think yeah, he just blundered this, I'm pretty sure. He should have just taken the knight. We would have taken back, and then this pawn, the b pawn, he could have done whatever he wanted with, reacted however he saw fit. Now I'm starting to think that he didn't even see the central pawn was hanging. I think he only saw the b pawn, assumed he was going to castle, and that when I take the b pawn, he was just going to move the rook over and win the pawn back with a really good position for white. But He totally forgot about the center. Much more important than the b pawn. And now this comes as a threat. It looks a little bit at the king, which keeps the knight at bay. If he hits it, can we actually take this pawn? I think if we took that pawn, our knight might have been trapped. So we might not have even been able to. But now he spends a whole, he doesn't even consider that. He just auto defends it. He should have definitely considered trapping the knight, potentially. Okay, we should just continue developing, I would say. So let's get the bishop out to an active square. This looks fine. With the knowledge that if he hits us, we can drop back to a7. If our pawn was still on a7 and he can hit us and we couldn't avoid the trade that way, maybe I would have picked a different square. So he moves this piece again, trying to take some advantage of this pin and the looseness of the bishop. It makes some sense, but all we have to do is defend the bishop to avoid this scenario. Do we have a counterattack? I mean, let's just develop a piece. We don't have to get fancy. Develop a piece, defend the bishop. We can move the knight next. Okay, so now he's attacking the bishop. So if we move the knight, our bishop will be hanging, right? So now we can move the bishop instead. Now let's see. If we move it here, then we can retreat our knight with a defense. So it's important to keep that in mind. If we move it here, we can't move our knight and defend the bishop with that knight. So it'll make it harder for us. So I'm thinking just go here, which is where I mentioned we would put it if it was attacked anyway. Only I was looking at the other knight. It's out of the way of everything. It can easily switch to these two diagonals. Super long, super powerful. But we're up our pawn. So we're going to just retreat and offer the trade. If he ever moves the f pawn, his bishop becomes loose. You can, oh my god, as soon as I say it, he undefends the bishop, which then gives me tactics. For example, I could take this pawn. If he takes my knight, boom, take the bishop. If I take the pawn and he takes my bishop, well, then it doesn't work. But we have knight e2, check. He takes the knight, boom, bishop and rook fork. So let's go for this tactic. It's check, so he can't choose to take our bishop first and give up an exchange or anything like that. Because it's check, he has to respond, and it's a fork. So even if he just moves his king and doesn't take, because he doesn't want my bishop to fork, the knight's already forking. So either way, he's getting forked by something. So now he loses the game. Why? Well, you have to be very careful with your f-pawn. As soon as he does, his king's safety is immediately in question. And so we use that. The king is so good to use for tactics because of the rules of chess. You can force your opponent to do things, to make certain moves, and he can't avoid it because of the rules of chess. Whereas if you attack a queen, he can choose to ignore it and look for something else. So now we're up 3 points of material. Now when you're up a lot, you prioritize your king safety. So let's castle. And our position is entirely harmonious, like perfect, picture perfect. You know, it doesn't get better than this. So we could double our rooks in the c file, right? Maybe you can rook lift to a nice square like this. I'm just going to improve the knight first just because I feel like it. And maybe I'll have a little more clarity depending on what my opponent does, where I want my rook. So he moves the king. Now I'm going to lift the rook. You could lift it here. It might get attacked though. So you could lift it to a different square, but I'm just going to put it here. Yeah, he attacks it. Fair enough. We didn't provoke anything. It kind of doesn't matter. We'll just go back. And we're going to double next. Yeah, I mean, putting it here was meh. Okay, so he goes here. I guess he's just trying to stop rook pressure. We're still going to double because we can kick this knight at our leisure. So, or try to trade it with our knight. He moves his knights in. No threats. Not sure where they're going. He's targeting this, so if I kick his knight, perhaps You know, this guy is attacked, so we have all the time in the world with our better position and our more material. We can get our king in on the action, right? The king is a super strong piece. It adds another layer of defense to all of these squares. And then we can kick the knight, and we can just slowly kick his knights out of the center. Knights are only as good as they are stable. So he goes here, maybe he's trying to be dynamic, but I'm going to continue with my king journey. He pushes the pawn. What does it threaten? Well, nothing. These aren't really threats as far as I can see. Can we do anything with our knight? I mean, we could try to mess with him a little bit. It's interesting. I think I'm just going to continue with my king, centralizing it, adding another layer of defense and offense. It's hitting the knight. It's just a good piece. And his is offsides. Okay, so he retreats the knight, so maybe now we can push. He can't check us, and we remove ourselves from the attack. We have a strong extra pass pawn on the e-file with threats. He's now walking into potential pawn fork if we get rid of our knight, so we keep it in mind, but he is double attacking it, so we definitely play f6. Protected pass pawn, he can't push his f-pawn, and this is now where he resigns. Like, he should resign for sure, because as soon as I stabilize like this, he should be super demoralized and then realize there's no point in even trying. But he decides pawn a3 to a4 somehow is worth playing on. Like I said, I'm going to go for this fork. Let me remove my knight. He probably doesn't want to trade, so I'm going to attack his knight and the pawn and say, well, too bad, kind of. So I'm not going to actually get to fork him, but I don't need to fork him. Okay, he moves his knight because he doesn't want to trade, but this is hang stuff. This is all going to collapse. I mean, his knights can't go anywhere because of our beautiful pawn duo. And that's why pawns are nice side by side, because they cover all the squares adjacent. So he's targeting this pawn, but this comes with a rook attack, so he doesn't have time to even try anything. He moves his rook. I mean, I'm just going to attack it again since he's attacking me. Maybe we go here, attack this, and attack this, double attack, right? Don't push these too quickly because then you give his knight some squares, so just be careful. He moves his rook and boom again, triple attack now. He moves his rook. Let's get our rooks in the game. Okay, he gives us a check, winning the exchange, but all this is actually bad for him. He should not take our rook, but he doesn't know that. But let's move our king somewhere first. Let's just go here. It doesn't really matter. So he's going to take our rook, but he should not be happy about it because all he did was remove his defender and speed up our passed pawn to a queen because we're up 4 passed pawns. 4. Yeah, so he's just making random moves. I guess he wanted to protect this. And you can, well, I was going to say you can push anything, but there is a fork here. Okay, well, can we take this? Let's just take this. He takes that, and then we can win the knight this way. Nice and clean. He refuses to resign. This is kind of dumb. We'll try to restrict his king. We will not put him in zugzwang, so don't worry. I mean, we will not stalemate him. I don't know why I said zugzwang. He's trying to stalemate himself, but it's just not going to work. This comes with check. So all he did was checkmate himself. He put himself in a nice little box for me, and we thank him. So you have to be careful when just automatically taking an exchange. When you're down material like he was, 6 points, he was down at that point he was down 6 points of material. Getting 1 or 2 back is not good for you. Like, you're still completely losing. And if you're giving up your pieces to get those 1 or 2 points back, you're removing your possible and potential counterplay and resources. And those 1 or 2 points don't actually affect the game because you're just still going from losing to losing. So hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Let's go through the game. We want to get a Queen's Gambit decline, but he stays flexible with a bishop developing move. So development and center. And now the bishop leaves the dark squares on the queen side. So c5 is thematic to open up and offer a potential queen b6, targeting those abandoned queenside dark squares. Okay, he goes for the Jobava London, a6, prophylaxis against his setup. He develops, and we just develop center and development. We continue development and center. We continue center and development. Force move. He recaptures. And now taking a central pawn with a flank pawn, which increases our development and increases the value of our position by removing a central pawn for a flank pawn. Development for free and center. Right? So it's a pretty even game up to this point. I would rather be black. I think black is slightly preferred, but it's a completely even game. White is just fine also. Until he castles. So best move is knight takes c6, queen takes c6, and then knight e2. And by removing his knight, he could then play c3 and solidify properly like a French pawn structure. But he doesn't do that. He immediately blunders that central pawn, which is the only move for an advantage. Anything else is an equal game. But if you take this pawn, you're -2, which is basically winning. So he blundered the game away just with this one pawn. He has to take the queen, so force move. His best move was actually what I said, rook fd1. And I cannot take the pawn as my knight would be trapped. So he should have considered that. He's still losing, but I mean, if you can even try to trap your opponent, you should be thinking about it. Especially from a losing position, you should look for all tricks. And then just development and center. He tries to get cheeky, but you can handle this a number of ways. You can move your rook and defend like I did. You can retreat your bishop, which also defends it. And then there's this super cute, super cheeky engine move, knight c6. If he takes your bishop, his knight hangs. So that's really good. I mean, really funny. If he takes your knight, I guess you take his bishop, hitting his rook. He has to take, you take. That's a funny way. Anyway, we just develop and defend. And now we're force move because it was hanging. And immediately a blunder. A tactical blunder. So him hanging the pawn, that was a tactical blunder and a strategic blunder. f4, also tactical and strategic blunder. So he did the same thing again. Tactical because of the move in the game, but strategic because it weakens the entire diagonal. And this move does not increase his piece activity. His rook is increased a little bit, but the weaknesses you create on the dark squares when I already have a bishop on that diagonal doesn't make any sense. Force move, he takes our piece, and then we take back at -4. He moves over, we take free stuff, and then king safety and development. We are up 3 points of material in exchange and a pawn. And now all you have to do is improve your pieces. Just double your rooks, hop your knight in. Don't put your rook this far in. I mean, it doesn't matter. Actually, like, it makes no difference. But just move it 1 or 2 like a normal person, because he's obviously going to attack it. And then double like I do. And now all your pieces are in the game except your king. There are no queens on the board. Only 2 knights, which can actually check your king if you look at all the squares. So move your king up, make it nice and strong in the center, and it will be worth approximately 4 points, just as much as any of his knights. So I'm adding a whole nother piece to the equation. People don't use their king enough, and other people use it too much. So anyway, now we're just blasting through the center for free, gaining space for free. See, on this square, it's a potential passed pawn because it has a rival. But once you push past, it becomes a passed pawn. So now we cement, solidify our center, remove all counterplay, and now it is resignable. No hope to play for white. Okay, all of these are threats. So improving our position for free. free stuff for free, free stuff for free, improving for free, forced, improving for free, free stuff, force move. You see, his best move is not even to take the rook. So you shouldn't take the rook because it's -8 if you do. You're completely toast. He takes it, hastens his defeat, goes down a losing line even faster, and then he hangs everything. We have a 98% game with only one inaccuracy. Overall, a really cool game on how to play against a Jobava London setup in simple logical terms and what happens if even one pawn in the center collapses. So, good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games on my Discord. Goodbye.